Hello trader, welcome back to another weekly forex forecast for the last week of this month. As there is a monthly close coming up, we can expect accelerated volatility in all the instruments that we are trading. And I was looking at a couple of instruments. I have shortlisted here some of the pairs including DXY, NZDUSD, AUDUSD, British Pound US Dollar, Euro Dollar, Dollar CAD, XAUUSD, and yen pairs GBPJPY and Dollar Yen. Now among these we can see that DXY currently in a trend, and it's a very predictable trend at the moment, and there is a big fair value gap is approaching this important zone here. So we may see that as there is a monthly close coming, 1 or 2 days a very strong movement, especially at the end of the month, and which is coming this week. We will be looking at currently what kind of opportunity you might find in the beginning of the trading week in all of that based on that movement coming up this week. And also we will be looking at yen pairs and gold, especially to see where we can find, as past week gold was in a very strong trend. So let's begin first of all DXY from the multi-time frame approach, as monthly, weekly, higher time frame will give us clear direction, removing all the noise from the lower time frame. Now traders, before I progress further to this analysis, make sure you give a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. So with that said, let's begin with first of all DXY, looking at monthly chart. Now monthly price action on DXY is a complete bear market that you can see. We saw that a couple of months ago DXY had a breakout here in that direction, which is a long-term historical resistance line that you can see. This is a resistance here, and also resistance here, where the market managed to break back to the upside, followed by we saw that there was a complete breakdown. Now this market structure currently we can see with this monthly doji, and there's another doji. There is an increasing strength of the candles that you can see that every month the price was becoming bearish and bearish. So there was a huge order flow in this market to the bearish side that we can see on DXY. Now this is the monthly candle, and when we look at monthly, we definitely not trading on the monthly, but that can give us a long-term directional bias. Now if we look at the previous monthly candle, we can see that with this big bull candle followed by a healthy wick at the bottom. Therefore this month, what I think that we are almost at the end of the month, and we see that there was a very failed attempt from the buyers. The price has reached almost 50% of this previous monthly candle's body and has strongly got rejected, and because it's a very strongly falling market, and we can see from the monthly also 10 and 20 EMA crossed over from each other, we could see that this market potentially to be trending back down here. And as it is a strongly falling market, there is an order block here in this area on DXY, and we may see a potential downtrend continuation from the monthly. Therefore DXY may potentially continue to drop here, and in the first move before the monthly close, what I think the price may try to retest or even cross this monthly low here. So therefore monthly is bearish. Now looking at the stepping down to the weekly chart to see what kind of price action it is forming. Now this is the weekly market structure, as market structure is the primary way that we can understand the potential directional bias. Starting with this move, we saw a big drop followed by pullback, and it is a typical downtrending market structure creating series of lower high and lower low, as it is in a typical downtrend. We see there is weekly candle closed here. This week, what I think, we may see an initial pullback. There is one probability. Even what I think, it might even open with a gap and potentially continue to drop here, as this market in a strong downtrend, there will be a lot of volume coming potentially in this market. Therefore, it may even open with a gap and continue to drop potentially to create a new lower low. And if, as this market is trending in that way, we may see that the market to potentially to drop back even to this level or passing this low here. So therefore, there is a potential for the weekly trend to remain bearish, as after 4 weeks of pullback, it started a new move, and we may see a couple of weeks drop here potentially. At least this week coming up, we could see that DXY potentially to remain bearish. Now, daily chart to see the breakdown here, we can see that there was an attempt from the buyers here that basically has ended up being a retest of this support as a resistance, and they couldn't create a new higher high. Instead, sellers took full control and started to trend back down again. And last day of trading week here, we can see that this is the daily bearish engulfer here. And with the daily bearish engulfer here, there is an head and shoulder that we can spot in that area. The candle closed below the daily low, expecting for DXY to potentially retest and then to trend back down here. Now, looking at the 4-hour chart here, which is a very important price action on the 4-hour chart, here we can see that the market on the 4-hour time frame is in a trend. Here is what we can see. The market in this area, there was a narrow couple of doji formation, has completely broken below, pull back to the upside, and the market here is in a sharp downtrending market structure. Now, here is the most important part that we can see is the head and shoulder formation. Now, head and shoulder in the direction of the trend, crossing 10 and 20 MA, closing back below, giving a DXY a high probability to remain bearish here, and it is maintaining the downtrend. And we saw this head and shoulder. What I think that this week there are two probable scenarios we discussed: either to open with a gap and then potentially to trend back down to that support level, which is an important key level of support here, or we might see a little bit of pullback to the upside, retesting that level and then coming back down again in the major direction of the trend. Based on the price action confirmation, either to with a pullback or without pullback, we could see that DXY potentially creating this structure here. Now, if DXY moving in this way, we may see that reflection on all the USD pairs. So let's now look at how we can see the mirror effect of DXY on NZDUSD, AUDUSD, Euro dollar, and British pound US dollar. They almost will potentially move in the same direction, but still, let's look at again individually how they might behave this week, as some of the instrument might have a varied strength, starting with NZDUSD. Looking at monthly chart here. Now, looking at monthly on NZDUSD, we can see that the previous monthly candle from this monthly support level, there is a sharp breakout with a big monthly bullish engulfer. Now, this month's current monthly candle, we can see from this support level, there is a sharp bounce back to the upside with a stronger momentum here. Now, this current monthly candle, as it is in a sharp bullish trend, we could see potentially going back up further, as we are expecting DXY to remain bearish. That could lead NZDUSD to remain bullish. Now, dropping down to the weekly chart here, we can see that reflection of this inverted head and shoulder formation from the weekly, and at the same time a strong impulse back-to-back 4 weeks of pullback. And past week we saw that there is a starting of a bullish impulse that giving NZDUSD potentially to remain bullish, and we may see that ultimately the market to go back up to that long-term resistance line here for bigger picture. Now therefore NZDUSD potentially from the weekly to remain bullish. Now dropping down to the daily chart here, we can see that from the daily there was quite a few days of consolidation here. Now the bigger the consolidation, the stronger the breakout, and we can see that from the daily there's a daily bullish engulfer, which is a very strong bull candle formation. And with that bullish engulfer, we could see that this is the daily bullish engulfer with long consolidation here. So what we could see after an initial pullback, NZDUSD potentially to remain bullish in this area. Now looking at the 4-hour chart here from intraday perspective here on NZDUSD, we can see that there is a sharp breakout with no pullback here. And with that breakout, what we can expect on NZDUSD for the market to potentially trend back down, pull back, and then to remain bullish here. So this is potential wave for the upcoming week on NZDUSD with a mirror effect of DXY. And what I think the first move, we might see the price to potentially to reach that resistance line, and that could even lead back to the upside further to the long-term monthly resistance line. So this week NZDUSD potentially to trend back to the upside, creating series of higher high and higher low. Now let's look at AUD USD. Let's see what kind of price action it might form. Looking at monthly again on Aussie dollar, we can see that this instrument as well, like the NZDUSD, there was a sharp bounce on the monthly, but we could see even potentially stronger effect on AUDUSD, as the previous monthly rejection was a very sharp breakout from this monthly support level. And this month we can see the market from this important support level here. There is a big bounce here on the monthly chart, and with that bounce, what we could see that AUDUSD potentially to trend back again to the upside to create a new higher high. Now looking at the weekly chart here on AUDUSD, we can see that from the weekly, here is a very long inverted head and shoulder formation on AUDUSD. And with that inverted head and shoulder, with this structure, we saw there was a false breakout for false breakdown here, and there is an immediate rejection with this false breakdown, giving AUDUSD a high probability for this potential trend continuation back to the upside here. And we can see the market is approaching that level where there is an important resistance line. Now looking at daily chart here on AUDUSD, we can see that from the daily perspective, this is the daily price action where there was a sharp consolidation and with multiple liquidity grab from this support level. And last day of trading week, it is a sharp bullish engulfer. Complete breakout from the structure can give this week potential trend continuation as the mirror effect of DXY that we have discussed in our DXY analysis. Now at the moment we can see that on AUDUSD from this support level there is a sharp bounce with multiple liquidity grab here, which is a complete impulse back to the upside on AUDUSD, expecting this instrument potentially to remain bullish here. Now with that being said, we will be waiting for also potential pullback here, and that could be the wave for this upcoming week on AUDUSD, expecting for this market to continue with the uptrend. Now let's look at GBPUSD. Now among all of that, we see that GBPUSD as well as euro dollar is in a stronger trend. GBP looks strongest in among all of that. So let's see now this month, as there's a monthly close coming and also a new weekly opening coming up. So GBPUSD so far from the monthly perspective here, we can see that back to back, this is the 4th month this market is in a bullish trend, and with that bull trend the market is currently approaching that resistance line. Here is the monthly impulse. Every month the market is forming series of higher high and higher low, which is in an uptrending market structure here, and with that uptrend expecting British pound US dollar potentially to remain bullish back to the upside to create a new higher high in this market. So now let's look at now weekly chart to see how the price is doing here. Now from the weekly we can see that a predictable uptrending market structure here. What we can see from here, an impulse sideways movement, pull back, and we can see another impulse sideways movement, and then we can see another impulse. So past week we saw, including this 4 weeks of pullback, British pound US dollar has gained enough momentum, and we may see that potential trend continuation, as even we could see the gap open. If we see the gap on DXY, that might reflect on British pound US dollar as well. So we can expect this instrument potentially to remain bullish in that direction on British pound US dollar. Now looking at the 4-hour daily chart on GBPUSD, we can see that there is an inverted head and shoulder here, a complete breakout with that inverted head and shoulder. Now the previous day here we can see there is a doji formation followed by last day of trading week a strong bull candle. This is a complete break from this resistance line on British pound US dollar, and what we can expect in this instrument from the 4-hour chart here, and we can see the market is in a strong trend, as we discussed on GBPUSD is in a bullish trend here. So this is an impulse correction, a strong bull market expecting British pound US dollar potentially to remain bullish. Now this is where we can see the market is in a trend expecting GBPUSD either potentially to come for a shorter pullback or even open with a gap to potentially continue to trend back to the upside. This is the zone with a price action confirmation we may be able to enter a trade, and I will prefer tomorrow with the market open to trade setup on euro dollar and British pound US dollar among all the instruments, as they are currently in a strong trend. Now let's see how it is impacting or a euro dollar trend we could see on the lower time frame and higher time frame. Looking at again the monthly chart to see which is again a complete mirror effect or of DXY on euro dollar, and we can see the market here from the monthly chart. This is the monthly impulse after this 10 and 20 EMA crossover, which is a big bull candle with a long wick at the top on the monthly on euro dollar. And the price here, the sellers try to sell this market because it's in a very sharp bullish trend. We could see that potentially euro dollar going back to that resistance line where there is a high liquidity. Now as the market sharply has got a rejection from this level, we could see that on the monthly euro dollar potentially to remain bullish here. Now looking at the weekly chart here, we can see that from the weekly it is bull market as well. We can see the market had a sharp sideways movement in that area, and with this sideways movement a big bounce followed by this pullback and the bounce, and we can see the market here quite a few weeks of narrow pullback in that area. Now with this narrow pullback, the market started new potential impulse or an uptrend here in this zone. Now with that impulse, if we look at the weekly chart here, you can see this is a bullish engulfer and expecting potentially a trend continuation. And if we look at the weekly close, this price action is significant. We see that there is a full green body with almost no wick at the bottom and tops, which is a very healthy, stronger bullish price action. We see there is a huge volume in this candlestick pattern on the weekly, and therefore this week we may see that potential reflection of that volume to push that price back to the upside to create a new higher high of this swing high. So looking at the daily chart to see further potential opportunity, we can see that from the daily this is an uptrending market structure. We saw there was a gap open with a reversal pattern from this structure. So this is a liquidity grab, and this is a breakup structure here, and we see the market started to trend back up. So this trend continuation may continue to rise back to the upside to this level from the daily. Therefore looking at the intraday from 4-hour chart here, that we see that there is a clean head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulder here and that inverted head and shoulder that we can see, the previous 4-hour candle is a liquidity grab here with a doji. It has crossed both sides with a long rejection, which is a complete manipulation here, and also there is manipulation here, so which both candle created an inverted head and shoulder, which is showing a potential trend continuation here. And with the trend continuation, what we could see that euro dollar to remain bullish in this market. This could be an important trade setup that coming up tomorrow on, along with GBPUSD. I will also be looking for potential entry on euro dollar, leaving the stop loss at least below this low, as there is a long week doji here. I'll also keep you posted, guys, this week as a very important week for British pound, US dollar and euro dollar. We may see that potential trend continuation to the upside in this instrument as well, so we will keep you posted during the week. At the moment, we may see either, as I mentioned, on other instrument as well, we may see there is a trend continuation after a gap open or narrow pullback. So as soon as we will find price action confirmation, we can look for potential entry in this instrument. Now let's look at dollar CAD. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we have in this instrument. Now dollar CAD, as we see that with the weakness on DXY, dollar CAD also continuing its downtrend back to back. This is the 4th month the buyers has completely rejected from the top here on dollar CAD, and we can see the market is potentially breaking below in this instrument, coming back to this support level here, which is an important area of value. And we could see that from the monthly, the price to potentially drop back down here. Now looking at the weekly chart here on dollar CAD, we can see that from the weekly, it is also showing a downtrend, a big drop followed by this pullback and another drop, pullback. The market is trending, creating series of lower high and lower low, which is a typical downtrending market structure. Here is the weekly bearish engulfer, and we could see that this week dollar CAD potentially to go up for a pullback and then to trend back down again to create a new lower low. Now looking at daily chart here on dollar CAD, we saw that there was a breakout here, and after a consolidation, the market has broken completely back below here. And probably you guys have seen that we had a very successful trade during the CAD news in that area, and the market has still dropping in that direction. We may see that the market potentially to trend back down to create a new lower low. Now looking at the 4-hour chart here, that we can see this instrument also showing that downtrend. Here is what we can see. The market was forming series of lower high, and with this series of lower high, there is a multiple liquidity grab. It's a complete break below on dollar CAD, and we could see that this market is trending, creating series of lower high and lower low. And what I think that dollar CAD, because there was a break of structure and rejected back to the support level, we may see that dollar CAD to remain bearish to the downside. Long term, we could see the price coming back here on this monthly support level, as this market already below this support, expecting a potential pullback or sideways movement. And once we see the price has given that suitable entry, we can look for selling opportunity in this instrument, as it is in a sharp downtrend. Now let's look at XAUUSD gold analysis. Past week, pretty important week that we have seen. There was a trend here after this big drop. We saw that past week also trend. This week we may see that potential continuation of the trend, or we could see reversal that we will be looking at now from the multi-time frame analysis. Before I go in depth analysis, traders, make sure also join the Telegram community. You can find link below this video there, where I share all the updates, as well as there are some trade ideas, analysis, education, also promotions that posted on the channel. You guys can join that, stay connected for more updates. So let's look at now on XAUUSD. Now before I go to the full analysis, this is the 4-hour chart that I was looking at, a pattern here that we can spot in this. Here we saw that there was a bounce followed by which is an order block. From there the market has broken below, and when the price has reached that level, if you look at this box here, this line, we see the market has tested exactly to the order block, which is the support, turning resistance, and we saw that a break below again to the support level. So with this double bottom, the market has broken out to the order block, has dropped back down again, and later what we have seen, the market again has bounced back to the same order block here, which is a series of lower high, so which is for this structure here, and the price at this order block. Now the question is this continuing the same pattern, that dropping back down here, or we could see continuation and trend continuation here? Now let's understand that potential movement, what we could see in from the bigger picture. Now looking at monthly here on XAUUSD, we can see that this is the monthly price action, where after 4 months of bullish move, this month we can see the price from this support level had a strong sharp bounce. Now this monthly candle, where you can see from this support level there is a breakout on the monthly, and as currently we are almost at the end of the month, we see that there is a bullish impulse back to the upside. Now the bias here is still bullish, as the market is still maintaining that series of higher low formation in that area, and with that series of higher low, with this monthly bullish engulfer on XAUUSD, we may see that potential trend continuation here to create a new higher high. Now if we look at the weekly chart here to see which one likely to happen, now here is the weekly price is also potentially supporting for an uptrending market structure. Here is an impulse, big move followed by this pullback, and you can see another move followed by deeper pullback with a long bullish engulfer here on the weekly chart. Here we saw quite a few weeks sideways movement. Now here is the most important part, that we can see the previous weekly breakdown, which has broken that support completely, and this week the one that has closed the candle, we can see the market closed with a full body green. Now this weekly close is absolutely important, as we can look at very two important factor from this weekly close. The first factor that we can see, that this is a bullish engulfer, which if we look at the low of this weekly candle, there is no wick at the bottom, and we can see there is a top wick with a very narrow wick, which is bull confirmation that there was a volume in this market, and the candle close passed by this significant level of resistance here from the weekly chart, which is giving a high probability for XAUUSD potentially to remain bullish in that direction. So looking at the daily chart here on XAUUSD, where we can see with this inverted head and shoulder complete breakout followed by this pullback, and the market is in an impulsive phase at the moment. This is the daily price action here, and with this daily impulse pullback with a doji, we see last day of trading week creating a higher low, a green big bull candle closed above this level, and that could lead that market to potentially trend back to the upside. And I think that this week bias still could remain bullish, but depending on how throughout the week the price action is being created, we might find further update. But in the beginning of the week, as just is still in an uptrend, what I think we still can expect further upside, especially in the beginning of the week. Now from the 4-hour chart here, that we have come back to the analysis again on the lower time frame, where we see there is an order block, and from that order block the market has dropped back to that support, followed by the market has gone back up again, tested the same order block support as a resistance, and again dropped back, creating a lower high with again another inverted head and shoulder. The market has broken back up above that level, which is now again testing that order block. So that being said, here because it's a healthy trending market. Now if we look at in these two scenario here with this move, it wasn't a healthy trend as it is a complete bounce. If you look at it, all those green candle from the support to the resistance without any proper pullback, that has given a complete break below, so which is a fake out. So when you see that without proper pullback the market trend, that's a chances there is a fake out here. And we see that the next move also similar kind without proper pullback, and we can see the market as a result has dropped back again straight to this support level. Now this move here is significant, and I think the market potentially at least to continue back to 3435 or even further to the upside, as this move here had a healthy liquidity gap. If we look at here with this impulse, we can see correction followed by break of structure here. Now this break of structure on the 4-hour time frame to this 20 EMA has given a strength in this trend, and with that being said, there is at least one potential move back to the upside. So what I think that this week at least we can see potential 750 pip move back to the upside before it drop back down or going back up with the new monthly opening. So as we trade on the lower time frame, I will be looking at 15 minutes or 5 minutes entry even. Tomorrow's plan for XAUUSD as the first day of trading week. The long-term picture throughout the week we are expecting to be bullish. Here is the plan for XAUUSD is to wait for a potential break of structure to test any of this significant support before we look for any bullish entry opportunity. As soon as we will find suitable entry in this instrument, we will be looking for going long with a high probability trade setup. Let's look at GBPJPY, looking at monthly chart to see overall direction in this market. Now looking at monthly on GJ, we can see that from the monthly perspective there is a monthly long week rejection here, and this current monthly price action from this support level on GBPJPY, we can see the price had a very sharp bounce here, and this month we can see the price from this support resistance line from the monthly, it has dropped back down to that support. Currently the market is again pushing back to the upside potentially to fill that monthly week. Now if we look at the weekly chart here to see, there is a doji formation here. From the weekly we saw that after this weekly pin bar, this week from this level has dropped and closed as a doji. Now what I think that this upcoming week either the market form another doji here or even could see potential bullish move. What I think that it might range for this week, and before the monthly close even we could see that the price is closing almost potentially as a doji or sideways movement. So looking at the daily chart here, we can see that from the daily with this daily huge impulse here followed by pullback with multiple liquidity gap here in the zone on the daily on GBPJPY, we could see the price to retest and then potentially trend continuation, and this is the support of the weekly, support of the resistance, and this week we may see the market to range in between this support and resistance with a potential bullish bias here. Now looking at the 4-hour chart, we could see therefore any break below with a stronger rejection can give potential bullish opportunity in this instrument on GBPJPY. So with any drop here is a potential opportunity to go long on GJ. Now let's look at dollar yen. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we have. As we are expecting weakness on dollar, we may see that dollar yen also showing potential trend. Here is the dollar yen price action that we can see from the monthly. We can see there's a big drop here, and with the drop, this is the monthly candle where from this resistance line there's a sharp drop to that monthly support, and expecting dollar yen potentially to trend back down again to create a new lower low here. So this is a key area of support on dollar yen, and we may see the market potentially to trend down here in that direction. Now looking at the weekly chart here on dollar yen, we can see that from the weekly, this is the weekly price action here, where there is a big drop here followed by this pullback, and we can see another drop here followed by deeper pullback. The market is forming series of lower high and lower low here on dollar yen, and with a long wick doji, it's trending back down. With this doji, there's a gap open and the market is trending, expecting dollar yen to trend continue, and we may see the price ultimately coming back here to this support level to create a new lower low in this market. So looking at daily chart here, we can see that dollar yen trend is down, while we see the GBPJPY might move in a sideways. What I think dollar yen, as with the weakness on dollar and as well as a strengthening on yen, dollar yen potentially could remain bearish here. We can see this is a key level of resistance. The price has crossed that high and has got back below, creating series of lower high and lower low, followed by we can see that daily bearish engulfer. Now because it's in a downtrend, expecting dollar yen to trend back down here to create a new lower low. So looking at the 4-hour chart here on dollar yen, we can see that there was a multiple liquidity grab here and it's trending with a series of lower high and lower low. Any pullback here is a potential opportunity on dollar yen to go short here, and I think we may see even a gap open and continuation. As we have seen after this liquidity grab, there's a big drop, too narrow doji here, also creating series of lower high and lower low, which is a sign of potential downtrend continuation in this market. Traders, I hope that you enjoyed this weekly forex forecast. If you enjoy, make sure you give a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. Thank you, and I'll see you soon in my next analysis.